Hello there, and welcome to a class focused specifically on talking to your shoulder capsules. In terms of props, all you're going to need is a little floor space, maybe a pillow or a yoga block to place under your head, a couch or a nice sturdy chair that's not going to move on you when you lean on it, and a little soft on the top. Yeah, you're going to be in sort of a shape like that. And finally, just a little patch of wall space, just enough to place your upper arm against. Yeah. All right, so once you've gathered those ingredients, we're going to start just seated on the edge of your couch with your feet flat on the ground, and we're going to warm up that thoracic spine, basically the stretch of spine that makes up your rib cage. Set this up by bracing your midsection, hugging your shoulders or creating that upper body tension however you like, and then finally pulling your chin down to your chest, just kind of setting it there. If that doesn't feel great, you could also set it right on your hands. Yeah, kind of like Hannah's showing, perfect. And that's gonna stay fixed as we move. Now the motion's gonna be through that upper back, so begin rounding your shoulders forward, looking for a stretch on the front, but maybe more important is actually that active effort on the front of your body. So stretch on the back, work on the front. Okay, and you're going to keep moving in that segmental way until you feel like you have maxed out the flexion available in your rib cage. Then pause there, tune into your belly button staying still, and start unfurling your spine, thinking of stretching your rib cage segments apart on that front of your spine, and finally lifting your collarbones up, but keeping your chin on your chest or your hands. And then continue back in the first direction, rounding your shoulders forward, trying your best to move one vertebrae at a time only, and really feeling that your lower back, your stomach, and your hips are staying totally still throughout. Keep going, finding maybe 30 to 50% effort in these muscular contractions, and really making sure that you keep that active effort going through the whole motion. This will really help you feel for any spots where your motion jumps or maybe segments of your spine that aren't as clear to you. Just another 10 seconds warming up this part of your back that most correlates with shoulder function. Great. And 3, 2, 1. Relax. Very nice. Okay, melt that away. Now we're going to shift focus to your shoulder blades, so just moving a little bit out from the spine. And for this, I'll just have you reach your arms out in front of you, hands a little bit wider than your shoulders, and make 2 fists. Just a note that if this position doesn't feel great on your shoulders, you could always, just go down by your sides and generally find an angle that feels good on your shoulder so that we can focus on the shoulder blades. All right, so building that tension in your lower body, your midsection, and through your arms. Bring that tension up to about 50% effort, and then the movement will be reaching your shoulder blades together, pinching in towards your spine, smoothly shrugging up to your ears, keeping that shrug as you start to reach forward, stretching your shoulder blades apart, and then finally pulling those shoulder blades down until we get back to where we started. Keep going in this direction. As you get a feel for it, see if you can reach those shoulder blades into even further position in each of these directions. So more forward, more down, more towards your spine, and more up to your ears. Just making sure that you're never pushing into any painful areas and doing your best to keep your elbows straight and your spine still. Nice. Good. And wherever you are, just pause and reverse course. Start going in the other direction, just trying to make that circle, and then as you get a feel for it, starting to really define that circle. So you're really sure that you're moving as far as you can, pain-free, in each of these 4 directions. And just a note that usually the downward movement is the hardest to feel. So if you're noticing that, totally great, totally fine. Just keep coming back and seeing how it changes sensation as you work through reps for another 10 seconds. Building some heat, keeping that tension going in your arms and your midsection for 3, 2, 1, and relax. Very nice, okay? Now, if your shoulders are really bugging you and they're kind of painful, sometimes that scapular CAR can feel like it's impacting the shoulder joint just a little bit, so that would be a reason to shorten the range of motion as well. Okay, finally, we're gonna warm up your shoulder joint itself, that gleno-humeral joint, and we use that name just to create a distinction between that joint, right where your arm meets your body, and your shoulder blade, what we just were moving. And for this, you'll want to scooch towards a wall. You could be standing or seated like Hannah's showing. And then with that upright torso, you're going to reach your elbow out to the side so that you're in contact with the wall. And then place your other hand right on your collarbone or your shoulder area so that you can monitor that your shoulder blade actually now is going to start reaching down your back. A nice active reach, like you're putting your shoulder blade in your back pocket. Keep that active effort going. Make a nice tight fist in the bent arm. And then start your motion by reaching that fist back only as far as you can without pain. And then forward. Again, respecting any pain or pinching that you're feeling and just steering clear of that, so stopping early. And this is really a case where everyone's shoulder will be different. So you might notice that your motion is much smaller or much larger than Hannah's, but the speed that you're rotating should be similar, and the amount that you're tuning in to the sensations there, you really want to focus there on that. Good. 10 more seconds, complete stops at each end range of rotation. Maybe add a little squeeze to your fist if it feels okay, and therefore feel a little bit more contraction in all those muscles around your shoulder. And relax. Awesome, okay? So as we transition over to the other side, just to mention that this is the movement we're going to use at the end of class to kind of reassess, specifically reassess how it feels. So really make sure you're tuning into that as you set your shoulder blade down your back, brace your midsection, and then keeping your elbow pinned, start your rotation. Feeling that fist reach as far back, almost reaching behind your head, and then as far forward. All the time, keeping your shoulder blades still, your spine still, and please keep breathing. It can be tough to remember that when you're so focused in on a specific part of your body. Great work. 10 more seconds. Noticing how much rotation you have, but particularly what it feels like to rotate. What it feels like at the end range of internal rotation when your fist reaches forward and external rotation when your fist reaches back, and let it go. Very nice, okay? So that rotational motion we call a capsule CAR because it helps us see or express the actual function of the deepest part of our shoulder joint, that capsule in the shoulder. So that's what we're really going to try to talk to today with some contraction. And the first setup is going to be using your couch. So sit on the floor now in front of your couch. Get comfy. So if you need a pad under your butt or you want to lean a little bit, make sure you do that. And then take a second to really place your shoulder blade right against the edge of the couch. So you're almost trying to park the corner of your armpit right on that edge. Okay, so get a feel for that, almost like you're trapping your shoulder blade against the couch, and then your elbow is just resting right on top of the couch. Now, keeping that set up with your shoulder, you can turn your torso a little bit towards that hand so that you're easily able to grab onto the wrist with the other arm. All right. Now, from here, just keep your hand off for a second so you can feel that you have the opportunity to do a little of that same rotation we were just doing against the wall, and you can feel, okay, this sort of gives you an idea of your active range of motion. Now for today, we're going to be using a tool called Positional Isometrics, where we're just contracting at a mid-range angle to, again, help you talk to that capsule. So find an angle for your arm that's right between whatever your active range was. Somewhere in the middle, doesn't have to be exact. All right? And then from there, make a nice fist with that hand. Bring your other arm to the top of your wrist, where you would have a wristwatch. And then very gently start trying to unwind or externally rotate that shoulder joint so that you're creating a little little fight between these two hands, just maybe 5% effort. If that feels good and safe and strong and you feel connected to that ask for your body, turn it up to 10%. And then again, if that feels safe for you, turn it up again just to 15%, and we're going to hold this. As you're holding, feel that you're really putting a spotlight on the tissues in the shoulder, but also maybe other tissues around. You can see Hannah feeling some tension in her neck, moving her head around, and notice that. You might notice some lines of tension down the arm, and that's great to notice, again, so long as there's no pain. And then gradually let's ramp down that effort, okay? Make any micro adjustments that you need to get comfy, okay? And then, yeah, take your time. And then switch your hand over to the other side of the wrist, yeah, okay? So then here, instead of externally rotating, you're going to try to internally rotate the fist. So if her hand wasn't in the way, her fist would be moving more towards the floor. And ramp this up to 5% effort. And if that feels good, 10%. And finally, 15%. So you're really engaging the tissues of the shoulder, but feeling how that asks for help from neighboring tissues as well. Being consistent with that effort for 3, 2, now slowly ramp down that effort like a dimmer switch that you're turning down. And then take that hand out of the way and just do a little of that active rotation. Picking up on any changes in sensation. Because while one input won't make any lasting change, it will change how things feel right now in this moment. So you want to capture that change. And then let's do the same thing on the other side. Okay? Now just a note for your lower body when you set up on this other side, there's definitely no right way. You might find that you bend your legs, or bend your knees rather, you might place your feet in a different position, and you might notice that one side needs a different setup than the other. Please, we invite you to search out the setup that feels best, and then trap that armpit so that your shoulder blade is, placed right up against the couch, your elbows on the top, and then a few rotations here of your shoulder joint. Good. Okay, and then pick a mid-range there. So somewhere right in the middle. And if you need to, you can always turn your torso towards that hand just to make sure you have a good reach with the other arm, because you are going to be blocking. And start turning on that first contraction where you're trying to lift your wristwatch up into your other hand, but that other hand is not going to move. And ramp that effort up to about 5% only. You might be thinking, what am I going to do with 5%? You're going to become more connected to the tissues that do that action. And that's the goal here today. If that connection feels safe and you're getting clear with it, start to ramp it up to 10%. And then smoothly ramp to 15%. Good. Holding that 15% contraction, shining a spotlight right on the spot where your upper arm meets your body, that shoulder joint. And now gradually melt that effort away. So now for our other contraction, for that rails contraction, you're going to switch your hand over to the bottom side of the wrist, and then gently begin trying to internally rotate your shoulder, trying to push against that bottom hand, but nothing is able to move. Ramped up to just 5%, and then slowly up to 10%, and finally to 15%, holding that 15% effort. Great. Letting it feel as steady as possible, but noting that there might be a little bit of a shake in your body as this is maybe a new sensation, and then gradually ramp that effort down. Nice. Take your free arm out of the way and just offer a few little rotations here. Okay. Now, Generally, this couch setup is sort of the most user-friendly setup we have, but obviously everybody's body is different. So we're going to go through a couple other setups, and this will offer you a chance to do a few more repetitions for this same motion. So if you felt like this was a great setup, you can stay here, but now we're gonna move down to the floor and then to the wall. All right, so now coming down to the floor, go ahead and support your head and neck with a nice comfy pillow, and we're gonna be working this bottom arm here. Start by sliding that shoulder and elbow forward as much as you can, so it feels like your shoulder blade kind of slides off your spine, rib cage. And then from here, just do a few rotations of that bottom shoulder so you can notice that, oh, this is a similar movement to what we were doing against the wall at the beginning of class. Good. And again, noting that this is your active range of motion, pick a mid-range position. Okay. Now, for some of you individually, we might be asking you to pick a specific angle to work, but for the purpose of this class, mid-range is going to be just fine to get a feel here. Take your other hand, place it on top of the wrist, right where that wristwatch would be, and again, we're going to start engaging that pales contraction. That's the effort where you're trying to rotate your arm externally so that your fist would come towards the floor this way, but can't because that other hand is in the way. Ramp it up to 10% effort now. And you might stay there if this feels like the safe level to you today, but I also want to invite, if it feels good, to ramp it up to 20%. Good. And finally 25%. If that feels solid, going all the way to 25% and holding here. Letting this start to feel like a little bit more strength training impact on the deep tissues of the shoulder for just another 5 seconds. Maybe feeling a little fatigue. And then slowly relax. Good. And notice how when Hannah relaxes, nothing moves. That's really key. So make sure that you're staying still. Switch your supporting hand over to the other side. And then very lightly at first, so your brain can figure out this ask, start creating pressure between the hands so that you're trying to internally rotate your arm further, but can't. That top hand is in the way. Good. Slowly build this up to 10%. Checking in, does that feel strong and safe for you? If so, keep building percent by percent up to 20%. And then maybe inviting up to 25%. Really tuning in and only going to the intensity level that your nervous system is feeling okay with. Really important. Nice. 3, 2, 1. Take that top hand away as you relax, and then slowly do a few rotations here. And you're not really checking to see if there's more range of motion, although there might be, depending on what's going on in your shoulder. Again, this is just more of a chance for your brain to recognize how things might feel different. Good. All right, and then let's get to the other side. Nice.
Feels good.
Very nice. And also just calling out that maybe you couldn't really get comfortable in this floor setup. Totally fine, and we hear that sometimes. So you might just go back to the couch setup. That's great. All right, so as you set up your pillow on this side, reach that elbow forward as far as you can. Good. And then, yeah, notice how Hannah is kind of putting that pillow right up against her shoulder and neck to kind of fill in that negative space so that there's not a chance of her shoulder blade on the bottom side coming up to eat her ear. Yeah. There we go. Okay. And then a few rotations to get an idea of your active range of motion here. And then pick a mid-range position. So pick that mid-range position and then place your supporting hand right on the top of your wrist. And we're going to wind up that pales contraction again. Starting to feel like you're trying to push your fist into that supporting hand, but nothing can move. Up to 10% effort. 15. Maybe 20 if that's feeling good. Constantly checking in, seeing how your nervous system feels about this ask. And finally, maybe 25% and hold this. Very nice. And slowly melt down that contraction and switch your hand over to the other side. Once you're parked there, gently begin this contraction, this rails contraction, where you're trying to push your fist into your hand. Good. And ramping that up to about 20% effort, if that feels solid for you. Always having that open invitation to pause at the level of intensity that works for your body. Take it up to 25% now. Holding that, connecting to all of the tissues that assist with that ask, with that rotation. And slowly melt that away. Good. Okay, take that top hand away. Do some rotation here. Very nice. Good. And then once you've shaken that free, go ahead, come up to seated or standing, whatever is your position to get up against the wall. So now we're going to need some wall space. I'll just show you. If you are standing, you'd be somewhere like this. Okay. So go ahead and set that whole upper arm against the wall. Reach your elbow forward, just like we were doing against the floor. And then again, check in on your neck. Make sure there's no shrugging going on here. And start your rotation to check in on your active range. Okay, yeah. And all of these positions might impact your shoulder in such a way that you have different range of motion. Again, really encourage you to not put too much stock in that, but really focusing on the sensations that we're working today, because it's hard to know exactly what might limit range of motion. All right, so pick a mid-range position, and then place your top hand right on that fist, or on the wristwatch side, and then gently begin trying to bring your fist up to the wall, but block it. And at this point, this contraction should feel a little more familiar. So ramp it up smoothly, seeing again with fresh eyes what level of intensity feels safe and strong. 10%? If so, maybe 15%. If that feels good, try a 20% effort. And maybe, if you're feeling comfortable and confident, bring it all the way up to 30% here. That's about as much intensity as we like to use for these isometrics for the shoulder joint. And that's enough that you should really feel some neighboring tissue, maybe in your shoulder, chest, armpit, all of those regions stepping in to help you. Just 5 more seconds. And then slowly relax. Good. Okay. And then keeping that angle, switch your hand over to the other side. And take care as you begin this contraction where your wrist is pushing down into your hand that you don't let your elbow slide up the wall at all. You keep that pinned and you ramp up this rotation, this contraction to 10%, 20%, and maybe, again, if it feels solid, go into 30% effort. So that other arm is really working to make sure nothing is moving. And then slowly ramp down that contraction. Each time you have that chance to really feel what was working by slowly ramping it down, take the other hand away and just a few rotations here. Okay. And then go ahead and let that side go, turn it around. All right. Now, just a note that when I mention like communicating with your tissue, I mean that actually pretty literally, in that when we start to put force, like by contracting tissue, you're actually impacting how your DNA is getting expressed in each cell. So I throw that out there because as you set up for this final rep, it can be like, we're just doing the same thing over and over. Yeah, because we want to be very clear to the tissue that we're trying to talk to, and so we need to be consistent with that. All right, so reach that elbow forward. Do your best to take fresh eyes to this rotation, and then pick a mid-range position that you're going to work at. To start, bring that hand right on the wristwatch side, and begin lightly trying to externally rotate your shoulders so that your knuckles would come up the wall, but not letting it move. Ramping it up smoothly. This should feel pretty familiar now to 10%. If that feels good, go to 20%. And again, really being honest with yourself. If that feels safe and strong, try 30%. You both owe it to yourself to train at that higher intensity if it feels safe, and you owe it to yourself to keep the intensity lower if your body is telling you that that's as much intensity as is safe today. Both things. 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax. And then keeping your working arm angle the same, bring your other hand around and really play with it. You can see Hannah's kind of playing with a fist or a hand. Sometimes I even use my lower body to help support me. So just play with it. Let us know if you want further ideas there. Yeah. Okay. And then from here, start turning on that rotational effort to create that little battle between your hands. Turning it up to 10%, 20%, and maybe 30% if that feels doable today. Really getting clear on what tissues work to do that ask. And then very gradually melt away that contraction. All right, very nice work. Okay, so finally, we just want to reassess or retest that initial motion against the wall. So find your tall torso position, bring your elbow right up against the wall here, and hand goes right against the collarbone, kind of neck area to monitor that shoulder blade. And then a nice strong fist in the working arm, so you have active effort going on. Start your rotation here and really try to articulate the joint all the way to its end range. So you're finding either that edge where you can't contract any further, you can't bring the arm into rotation anymore, or maybe to that edge where if you did go further, you might start to get some pain or some discomfort. We don't really want to practice that for the brain. We want to practice strong function and pain-free motion only. 15 more seconds. Really asking your body to get more effective at rotating your shoulder. All right, go ahead and let that side go and try the other side. Yeah, this class in particular is a good reminder that even if you're not moving or you're moving in a very small manner, there's a lot of work going on inside. So we know you're doing it. You know you're doing it. Give yourself a little pat on the back, and let's dive into this final side here. Packing that shoulder blade down your back, bracing your torso to make sure you don't move, and then starting your rotation. And the elbow will try to move on you on the wall, so that's going to take some control and some focus, but it will also demand that you're really only rotating and you're not moving the arm around in another direction. Good. Very good. Trying to really feel what muscles contract to rotate. You might only feel that at the end of your rotation, so really stop there, find a complete stop, and see if you can try for more before reversing and going the other way, and trying for more in that direction. Good. Last rep here. And relax. Very nice work. All right, so let us know how those go. Let us know which position worked best for you, because that'll be very valuable knowledge moving forward. And finally, keep coming back to this material, because that's where you're really going to feel the magic and feel the information that your body has to offer you about your shoulders. All right, have a good one.